When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
Dr. Raj.
Dr. Raj Dasgupta.
The most interesting pulmonologist in the world.
Welcome to the Dr. Raj Podcast, a show all about empowering knowledge, addressing difficult topics, raising awareness, and being positive. Dr. Raj is a quadruple board-certified physician, associate professor of clinical medicine, and the associate program director of internal medicine residency. He was a co-host on the TNT series Chasing the Cure with Ann Curry, as well as a regular on the TV show The Doctors. And now, here's our show.
Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Raj Podcast. I'm Becca Spahr, excited to be back hosting another episode. This is going to be a good one. We'll be talking about one of my favorite topics, the power of humor. Our guest today is Adam Christing. Adam is an author, keynote speaker, and an award-winning event MC, and, this is my favorite one, a sensei of humor. Adam, welcome.
Hey, thanks a lot, Becca. Great to be on the show.
I'm so glad you could join us. And when I was preparing for the show, I noticed that in your bio, it says you've delighted more than 2 million people, which is very impressive, across 49 of the 50 U.S. states. So I'm curious, which state has not yet been graced with your humor?
Well, the main thing is the Maine state. That's the one I haven't hit. Can you believe that? People think it might be Alaska or North Dakota, but I've never been like at a laughter lobster fest or something like that.
Well, they're missing out. They need to get on it. Yeah, I'll have to think through I have so many contacts in Maine. I should think through who I could talk to have you have some business up there.
And you know what? It's sort of fun, Becca, to tell people I've been to 49 of the 50 states because it's actually a conversation starter. They say, well, which one are you missing? So maybe I'll just hold out.
That's a great idea. Then you always have that in your back pocket as a way to relate to people. I like that. And you're an absolute pro at relating to people and doing so through humor, which is near and dear to my heart. Funniness is something that I really value in anyone, in a friend, in a coworker. And you just wrote a book all about this subject. So tell me about your new book.
Well, thank you for asking. Quick backstory. I was a young kid, maybe third or fourth grade, and a bully was chasing me around the playground at school. And this kid meant business. In fact, he was so big, he later became an NFL star and won a Super Bowl ring. He shall remain nameless because my attorney's not present. But actually what happened is I knew that I couldn't take this guy. And somehow, like this instinct I had is, so I'm going to try to make him laugh. And so I started doing the silliest, like knock jokes or whatever I could think of. And he started to laugh. And pretty soon we went from him chasing me to us laughing together. And we are still friends today, many decades later. So I think a word that you used at the top of your program about relatable is so key. The laughter factor, there's so many different kinds of humor, but I've identified 5 positive types of humor. One of them's tricky. We can get into that. But I call them the 5 laugh languages because I think the best type of humor is a bridge that really connects hearts. I have learned, and maybe you have too, and I'm sure your listeners can relate to this idea, we feel fast and we think slow. So when we make someone laugh or they make us laugh or we share a grin together, well, as Mother Teresa, who was not a stand-up comedian, but knew a thing or two about helping humanity, she said, a smile is the shortest distance between two people.
So that's it. You used it to your advantage. But I want to understand how young Adam was feeling in that moment. Did you already feel like you were funny? Like it came naturally to you?
I think so, but I was very blessed in that I had a mom and dad. My dad was a really good joke teller, and my mom is almost like an improv person, like whose line is it anyway? Not professionally, but she's now 88 years old, and even today she was cracking me up. She has the laugh language of surprise. So she will say the most surprising things. And so I did grow up in a home. Another thing I was really, I wouldn't say taught, but what I was modeled for me was that the family room is funnier than the restroom. And humor doesn't have to be filthy to be funny. And so it doesn't mean we were busting up all the time, but we'd have some humor that would relieve some tension, or we'd tease each other. But it was always in this context of love, and to use one of your favorite words, because I know you're an expert in this area, of liking. I think when you know that someone likes you and you like them, you can have a lot more fun with them, because there's this context of, oh, I trust you, you trust me, and so we can poke some fun at each other, for example.
Sure. It's a great way to build trust and to kind of create some cohesion within a group, which is why applying it in both in personal and professional circles, but in professional circles, it can be especially powerful for a leader to use humor with their team so that they're creating that cohesion and trust, the trust, within the group. Tell me about how you explain this to leaders as to how they can harness it to be used for those purposes.
Well, I love that you mentioned the word cohesion. There was a study in the Human Relations Journal, and a researcher named Anthony Pescalito documented that not only, we all know that laughter reduces stress and it releases endorphins. It's so good for our health, but it's also great for creating a sense of cohesion. In fact, I don't think it's a coincidence that the word community has the same root as comedy. And so when I was a kid, one of my favorite experiences was going to camp, sitting around the campfire, telling stories, having a talent show. Somebody does a magic trick, somebody does a skit, and nobody was a professional comedian, but it didn't matter because we all felt like we were united, laughing together. And one of the things I emphasize in my book is make the distinction between laughing at someone and laughing with them. When you use sarcasm or put down type of humor, it's like you're belittling someone. But I like the kind of humor, I'm going to coin this phrase right now in real time on this podcast. Instead of belittling them, be big them. Celebrate their uniqueness. And it's okay if they like wearing funky cat shirts or different colored socks or whatever it is. If you know and trust them and they feel the same about you, you can really have some fun. And that's a laugh language that I call in-jokes, where you really get to know your friends and your associates, your family. And there's this sense of we've got our own special code language. For a company, that might be an acronym, or it might be that the lead manager repeats a saying over and over again, and so people have fun with it. There are lots of ways to make people laugh, but the key, one of the big keys, is being intentional about it.
I like that. And so in-jokes is I think the laugh language that I identify with the most. I really love nothing more than to be able to have a conversation and you start with a joke and then kind of by the end of it, you loop right back around to that joke. And I don't know, it just gives me such a feeling of satisfaction. That's probably when I laugh the hardest.
Isn't it a great feeling? And I won't share because it was totally appropriate, but when we were communicating before this podcast, you repeated something that the two of us had spoken about before, and it made me smile. It was like, that's what they call a callback. And professional comedians use this all the time. When I'm hosting an event, something crazy might happen. Like the other night, we did this little skit with attendees, And we asked people to shout out different languages from the audience that they were going to pretend to be in like this international film. And one language was French. And so I thought this gentleman was going to, try to sound French, like croissant, and just really work up this accent. But he did it for some reason, almost sounding like a samurai swordsman or something. And so this was a 3-day event. I kept calling back to that for the next couple of days. And so I would say, and by the way, David's going to be leading a special, dance aerobics class. And it wasn't even that funny, but to this group, it was very funny because they felt like, wow, this just happened and we're reliving it together.
And so you were fueling their need for belonging, a basic human need that we all have, to feel like part of a group, to feel like they're in it together. And that just even, again, creates that really great sense of cohesion between the organization that's there, but then also between you, the host, or the speaker who's interacting with this audience. So yes, we've got in-jokes.
Part of that is the power of repetition. I'll give you an embarrassing but true story.
The best kind.
Yeah, they're the best kind. At a different conference one time, I was very nervous. There were people from Europe, Asia, North America, all over the world attending. And I was the supposedly professional MC. I walked up toward the platform and Becca, I tripped. Now, I didn't fall on my face, but it was clear that I stumbled. I was so embarrassed, but I got through the opening greetings. On the way back, I didn't notice the same step and I nearly fell down the stairs again. And I was so embarrassed. I texted a friend of mine who's a professional speaker and a coach, and she said, do it again. And when I did it the third time, it actually became hilarious. And everyone felt like, oh, he can laugh at himself. So I call that principle, and this works really in any of the 5 laugh languages, but I call it authenticity. And so when we have some fun with our own flops, people feel closer to us. It makes us more approachable as leaders or as parents or as teachers, speakers, whatever kind of work you're in.
I wish I had known that. I wish I had known that trick on the first day of high school when I managed to trip up the stairs.
Oh, no.
Which is filed in my brain under one of my most embarrassing moments. So we've got in-jokes as one of the 5 laugh languages. Tell me what the others are.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, there's in-jokes, there's poke. We talked a little bit about that. And that's where you're really using what I call self-effacing. I don't say self-deprecating because it can sound not fun, but self-effacing humor is where you're poking some fun at yourself, like we were just mentioning. And when you do that, I think people say, oh, she's real. I can relate to her, right? And the other aspect of poke, and this is the tricky one, is when you're gently teasing other people. And so this is the one you have to be really careful with, because if a person is super sensitive, one tip is never go after somebody's politics or anything that could smack of being prejudice. And there's another P word I'm forgetting. Oh, yeah, avoid politics. You don't want to poke in certain areas, but that's the other laugh language. And surprise is tapping into the unbelievable power of the unexpected. And the 2 other ones are wordplay. And that's for all our punsters listening in today, people who love quips and quotes and clever jokes. Even dad jokes would fit this category of wordplay. And then finally, last but not least, is the big one, amplify. And this is I don't even know why this is so funny, but it is, where you go big, you exaggerate. Like you've heard stories like, it was so cold. And then maybe the audience says, how cold was it? And you just exaggerate. And that's called amplify. And this is where you heighten the pain. You heighten the humor. Some people might go to the grocery store and maybe they were delayed in the checkout line for 3 minutes. But when they tell the story, it sounds like they were hiking the Himalayas. And it was, the storm and they had no food. It's just very dramatic. And for some reason we love, maybe it's because all of us, I think really, especially leaders, are what I would call wounded healers. So when we open up about things where there might be some hurt, that's where a lot of the humor comes from.
how do you know what your laugh language is?
Well, I'm happy you mentioned that because I created a quiz and it's free. But if people go to thelaughterfactor.com, don't forget the word but thelaughterfactor.com, takes about 4 minutes. You can fill it out. And, this goes back to that monster best-selling book, The 5 Love Languages. And my wife and I have 4 kids. We bought a copy for our youngest son, James. And we said, hey, buddy, read this. We'd like to know what your love language is. And he read it. And we said, so, hey, what is your love language? And he said, Venmo. So you want to really listen. But in the same way that we gravitate towards in the love languages, it might be words of affirmation or acts of service. You'll notice that what makes you laugh is probably a good indicator as to what your favorite humor tactic or laugh language is.
That's the book about the love languages is fantastic. And really, when I read it and did it and discovered mine, I don't say lightly that things are life-changing. That's because I don't want to amplify things in that way. But it really was. And to understand not only that about me, but then to apply that to other people in my life, like my husband, my children, especially as they've grown up. And it's like, you want to love them the way that you love, but they have to be able to receive it too through their language. Yeah.
And so much of this goes back to being a thoughtful and active listener. So we have a almost brand new grandson, and I noticed when my son was playing with him, certain things, even at 3-4 months old, would make him laugh. And so my son is listening and watching for what sparks joy in him. So if you're a manager, if you're in the health care arena, you want to listen to your customers, your patients, your coworkers, and you'll find, oh, she really enjoys puns. So I'm going to email her the 10 top dad jokes or something like that. And, oh, this person is so delighted when you surprise them. But if you can learn your laugh language and tune in to what makes other people laugh, that's a great double dip.
That's like next level laughter factor ninja warrior. I think
Yes.
if you can figure out not only what makes you laugh, but what is funny to others, and then use that to really connect with them and show, because when you're the leader or even a peer, when you're showing that you understand their sense of humor, you're telling them, I'm listening to you, I understand you, I'm paying attention, all, your basic leadership advice to get people to want to follow you, to want to do whatever the thing is.
Well, and you're hitting on an important area, I think. Sometimes we convince ourselves that we're not good at certain things when really we could be. So I know I have a friend who might say, I remember faces, but I'm not good with names. And probably what happened is he forgot someone's name in an important situation and he felt embarrassed. And so now he just sort of uses this excuse in his brain that says, I'm not good with names. But if you were to take the time and look at someone's face and link it to their name, like your name is Becca. So right now I can see you through the magic of Zoom and virtual cameras. When I hear Becca, I might think of betcha. And so suddenly I have you like in Fargo and you betcha. And so if I link that idea to your face, it'll make me smile and it'll help me remember. In the same way, I believe every human being is also a humor being. And so you really do have a sense of humor. It's interesting, babies laugh even before they can talk. We are wired to connect. And one of the ways we do that is by smiling together, giggling, laughing, or completely busting up. Have you ever laughed so hard that you thought, I don't even remember what got this thing started, but we just can't stop laughing together.
Yes. And then your cheeks hurt and you feel like you did an ab workout the next day.
Right.
That's the kind I love. I feel like I had that more when I was a kid, and I've kind of been chasing that high ever since. As an adult, I don't know. I would be interested to see if anyone has ever researched like the age at which you laugh the most or are, I don't know, you're most funny or appreciative of humor.
I should know this by heart. I don't. But in the book, I do talk about a study that shows how at the preschool age, we laugh, I don't know, it's a huge number of times a day. And then as we get older, it just diminishes and diminishes. And I don't think it's because we take life a lot more seriously as adults. I mean, that's a factor. But it's almost like we're ships and these barnacles start to attach, right? Like I've got bills, I've got relationships, I've got health issues, and it just really drags us down. I think humor allows us to cut some of those away, even if it's just for a moment. One of the all-time great comedians of the vaudeville era and the early TV era, Milton Berle, he said, I love this, he said, laughter is an instant vacation. And so sometimes, just like we want, like my favorite kind of vacation is a staycation, right? Because I travel so much, but you can give yourself, if you know your laugh language, you can give yourself an instant vacation by saying, I'm going to watch this clip on YouTube, or I'm going to read this funny author, or this Netflix special, or hang out with a friend who I always laugh with her or him. You can give yourself that instant vacation.
What's your way to do that? What makes Adam laugh the most?
Well, this is where I have to be, I don't have to, but I'm going to be very open with you. I have noticed in myself and with many other comedians, I've worked with over 100 comedians in my career, and they're some of the saddest people I know. And I was thinking about why that is. And I think sometimes it's because we're very good at giving what we need to receive. And so as a comedian and a humorist myself, I have to stop and go, wait a second. I'm in the funny business. I need to make sure that I'm having fun myself. So for me, there are just certain comedians that just get me every time. I'll give you a quick example. There was a movie made, oh my goodness, it's almost 100 years ago now, by Laurel and Hardy. And I drove and saw where they filmed this, but they're selling Christmas trees door to door in Los Angeles, like in July. And this man's offended by them, so they cut his tie. And so then I forget what he does to them, but by the end, one of them pulls out a hose, and by the end, the car is destroyed, the house is destroyed, and it just keeps topping and getting, that would definitely be amplified. It gets bigger and bigger. And there's no swearing. All the violence, if you want to call it that, is slapstick, over the top, silly. But I remember one day watching Laurel and Hardy with my dad, my son, who was probably 4 or 5 at the time, and my grandfather. And so you had 4 generations enjoying good, clean fun.
What a nice memory to have with your family. And it doesn't, you said, I've heard you say this a few times, and I think you alluded to it just a minute ago, it doesn't have to be filthy to be funny. Is that it?
Yes. And here's another embarrassing flop moment I'll share with you. So years ago, we started an organization called cleancomedians.com. And my job as the prez was to come up with our motto. So I came up with that phrase, it doesn't have to be filthy to be funny. And Becca, I blew it so bad. I had 100 brochures printed, and we mailed them out, very expensive, to corporations and theaters and churches and colleges. And there was a typo. And instead of saying it doesn't have to be filthy to be funny, it said this: Clean Comedians is an association of professional comedians who believe it doesn't have to be funny.
Oh,
just takes the pressure right off me.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine the people receiving that must have read it and read it again. Like, what?
Here's what's crazy. That happened decades ago. And people who know me and experienced that with me at the time, we still laugh about it and we still joke about it. So sometimes, and timing is, of course, key with good humor. Sometimes it's too soon to joke about something. But when the time is right, and that goes back to listening, sometimes what we need, even in rough situations, I just lost my dad a few months ago due to cancer. But in his last months, we laughed a lot. We listened to music that we both loved. I asked him for his favorite joke. And so we can, I'll add this. I was blown away years ago. I was hired to entertain an association of funeral directors. And I thought of all the bad jokes. I thought, well, this will be a dead crowd. And I thought someone would say, hey, we're a stiff audience and all that stuff. But you know what I learned surprised me in a delightful way. That was one of the best audiences I've ever had. And I was thinking, why is that? They deal with death and grieving. And it reminds me that what one of them told me was, life is short, get all the laughs you can. There's a perspective that this life is a gift and it's a journey and we can enjoy it together. And humor is a big piece. Humor is not everything, but it is an essential thing, especially when we can laugh our way through difficult times.
So valuable in those moments where you don't know what to say or everything just seems to be crumbling around you, to be able to have that kind of positive spin on things and find the humor even when it's a tough situation. I thought we were going to call this episode Unlock the Power of Humor with Adam Christing, but I think we might just call it Adam's Most Embarrassing Moments.
We're going to need to do a 3-hour show if that's the case now. Oh my gosh, I have plenty of those. One thing I've learned though is I love this saying, I don't know if you've heard this, intimacy means into me see. So when we open up and share vulnerably about failures and flops, and of course we want to keep it appropriate, but when we do that, people don't see us as failures. I'll tell you one more story since this has become Adam's most embarrassing moment. I was at another event where I was also the event host, and my job was to introduce these musicians. But this particular group was a nonprofit that helps people in addiction and recovery. And this gentleman was sharing his journey. He was the founder, and it touched my heart so deeply. You know, my grandfather was an alcoholic, and he told me this. He said, I was drunk for 40 years and I got sober for 45 years. And something happened to me. I was about to go on stage and go for the laughs, and I burst into tears. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to introduce our musical act. I went up there and I kind of stumbled through it. And I think it was the guitarist put his arm around me and I made the introduction. And when I went to sit down, I thought, oh, I might lose my job. This is terrible. But the opposite thing happened. People came up to me and they said, we're so glad you're our host because you feel what we feel. And so being, again, authentic and being open, it really connects us. And humor, I say in the book, it's a shortcut to trust.
Very true. Very true. I have the book right here. It's called The Laughter Factor, The 5 Humor Tactics to Lift, Link, and Lead. Highly recommend. Where can you get it, Adam? Tell us.
Well, you can get it from Becca. She'll probably sell you her copy. But the problem is, I think you mark in books, though, don't you?
I do mark in books, but more importantly, you already marked in my book. When you sent it to me, you sent me a nice little note with it.
And thank you for being an advanced reader, as we call it. But I love the habit. I call it it's almost like a spiritual habit for me. But when I'm reading a good book, I take a pen and I underline it and I make notes in the margin. I had a mentor who told me, when you mark in a book marks in you. But our friends listening can get the book on Amazon.com. It's available at Barnes & Noble. I'll use my announcer voice. Wherever you find books. And if they want to take the quiz and discover their laugh language, they can go to thelaughterfactor.com.
Great. Thank you. We'll be sure to include all of that in the show notes so that hopefully if anyone's listening while they're driving, they're not writing anything down right now. Adam, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to share with us the laugh languages, your new book, and most importantly, your most embarrassing moments.
Thank you, Becca. It's really a privilege to be with you. I enjoyed it.
Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Dr. Raj Podcast. If you enjoy the show, then please make sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app and leave a rating while you're there. This show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. This has been a production of MedPrep to Go, and you can learn more at medprep2go.com.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.